Hey Siri,
Hi,
do you record what I say to you?
I respect your privacy and only listen when you're talking to me. You can learn about Apple's approach to privacy on apple.com.
Interesting, because last week Apple agreed to pay a $95 million class action lawsuit that claimed that Siri violated user privacy by secretly recording conversations according to court documents. And this is a huge deal because the lawsuit alleges that Apple shared these recordings with advertisers so they could better target their products. That sounds illegal, and there were some pretty interesting examples cited in the case. Like, two plaintiffs said that when they mentioned Air Jordans or Olive Garden restaurants, that triggered those ads. And another said that he got ads for a specific surgical treatment after discussing it, he thought, privately with his doctor. And basically all of us who have used an iPhone or MacBook or iPad with Siri activated in the last 10 years could get money from the settlement. You'd get a whopping $20 per device for up to 5 devices. Oh, nice. You can buy like half an Apple charger with that. The case has been going on for 5 years, and the final settlement is surprisingly low because $95 million is literally 9 hours of profit for Apple. Well, maybe it's low because Apple doesn't admit any wrongdoing and maintains they do not sell recordings of their users to advertisers. Which is interesting because in 2019, Apple even apologized for how it handled recordings, and a whistleblower even told The Guardian that Siri was way too easily activated. It could even be triggered from the sound of a zipper. I actually activated mine just now. Oh, yeah. Apple prides itself on privacy. It's a central part of their brand, or so they say at least. CEO Tim Cook calls it a fight to preserve a fundamental human right.
Privacy is hugely important to us. It's a key value of our company. We're holding that information on your device encrypted, so it is yours.
You're doing what you can to help, if necessary, national security, law enforcement, whatever, to do the job that they have to do.
Yes.
Completely comfortable.
Very.
With that.
And so today we're going to explore whether Apple is actually the champion of user privacy that they claim to be, and whether their emphasis on privacy is a way to cop out on user safety. So the best way to analyze this is through a lawsuit that was just filed last month against Apple. A group of victims is seeking more than $1.2 billion in damages, claiming Apple allowed child sex abuse material, or CSAM, to proliferate on iCloud without Apple doing anything about it. There are roughly 2,600 people in this case who were abused as children, and those photos and videos have existed on iCloud for years. And Apple knows this is happening. We found a text chain from their chief fraud executive in 2020, where he's basically talking about how Facebook focuses on trust and safety, but in privacy, quote, they suck. Apple's priorities are the inverse, which is why we are the greatest platform for distributing child porn. And the victim stories are disturbing. The New York Times interviewed a woman who they only identified as a 27-year-old from the Northeast who was abused by a male relative starting when she was an infant, and he took photos of the abuse and swapped them with other men online. He was eventually arrested and sent to prison, but these photos live on. For more than a decade, the victim receives dozens of notifications every day from authorities saying that they found her images online, many of which are stored in iCloud. And what she says bothers her the most is just knowing that these predators use these images of her to kind of show other children that abuse is normal. And because of these notifications and knowing that people are viewing these images of her, she's forced to constantly relive her trauma. She was afraid to even join this lawsuit because what if someone who's seen them recognizes her? But she thinks it's time for Apple to change. And a damning piece of evidence in this lawsuit kind of showing that Apple is at fault is that they have clearly acknowledged that this issue has existed for a while. So Apple actually introduced a program to identify and report CSAM in the past. Right. In 2021, Apple had unveiled a tool that allowed it to scan for illegal images of child abuse. But it quickly abandoned that tool after facing criticism from cybersecurity experts. So the victims in this lawsuit say that the company broke its promise to protect victims. The system uses a neural hash, which basically analyzes an image and then converts that image to a unique number, and only another image that's completely identical to that image produces that same number. So then Apple uses that to create a database that they then share with groups like the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. They then compare those digital signatures and flag matches to federal agencies. But then digital rights groups warned that this tool would compromise the privacy and security of iCloud users and basically create a backdoor for governments to come in.
So the company dropped its plan, saying it's almost impossible to scan iCloud photos without imperiling the security and privacy of our users.
And Apple has a long history of saying that they are prioritizing user privacy over clearly other things. Like in 2009, Microsoft created a software system called Photo DNA to recognize photos, even altered ones, and then compare them against a database of known illegal images. And so Google, Facebook, even Snapchat uses it.
But Apple rejected Photo DNA or doing any widespread scanning like its peers. And because of that, in just 2023 alone, Google and Facebook each filed more than 1 million reports of flagged content. Apple filed only 267.
That's literally such a bad look for Apple. It is the world's largest company. There are 2.2 billion active Apple devices, and they're such a big innovator in so many spaces, but this is clearly something that they have chosen not to prioritize. And a quick refresher, iCloud launched in 2011 and kind of acts like a digital warehouse even for illicit material. And an appealing quality of iCloud is the ability to unshare an iCloud link, which allows CSAM predators to kind of cover their tracks after they send and receive material.
So this current iCloud lawsuit says that Apple has essentially been selling defective products that harmed a whole class of customers, mainly child sexual abuse victims. They keep saying they don't want to scan for CSAM because it violates their users' privacy. Well, what about the children who had no choice in their privacy being violated and continuing to be by Apple's services? Like, don't they want to protect them?
Yeah, like their privacy claim ignores an entire subset of users, and Apple might actually start having to pay for it because this current lawsuit's scope and financial impact could force Apple into years of litigation over an issue that they have tried to ignore.
And this isn't the first lawsuit of its kind. In August last year, a 9-year-old girl from North Carolina sued Apple after strangers sent her CSAM through iCloud links and encouraged her to film and record her own nude videos. The lawsuit says Apple creates the false narrative that by detecting and deterring CSAM, it would run the risk of violating other users' privacy, even though other tech companies have deployed technology to disrupt distribution.
But Apple filed a motion to completely dismiss the case, saying that iCloud can't be subject to a product liability case because it's not a product like a defective tire or something, and that the Communications Decency Act protects them from liability. They also point to new safety features that are supposed to limit the spread of illegal photos.
Yeah, so let's break that down. A couple months ago, Apple started testing this new feature that prompts kids to report when they receive explicit content. Basically, when Apple identifies that they've received a nude photo or something, it sends them a pop-up with options to message a grown-up, get resources for help block the contact, or send a report to Apple, which then Apple sends to law enforcement.
Okay, like a pop-up to send a report or go get a grown-up does not seem like an advanced enough feature to address this issue, and critics say the same, since minors can just bypass the report and see the material.
It also says on the pop-up that if you choose to send the report, your name and personal information and the name and information of the person who sent it to you will be included in the report. Like, that could completely scare away a kid.
And I guess the question is, why hasn't Apple done more? Like, what is the benefit for them here? They have all of these lawsuits against them. They look really bad compared to other tech companies. Like, why do they think that they're exempt?
Well, I don't want to be too cynical, but could it be that they want to keep making money off their users and don't want to turn them away? Like, they charge anywhere from 99 cents to $60 per month for an iCloud subscription, and iCloud is expected to generate $11 billion this year.
Looking at these two cases side by side is so interesting because on one hand, with the Siri case, Apple is violating user privacy by illegally, selling user data to third parties and advertisers. And on the other hand, with the iCloud case, they are valuing user privacy so much that they're violating the trust and safety of kids. So it's kind of hard to know what side of the privacy spectrum Apple truly lands on.